All right, we're going to do one more chapter from the Boxcar Children right now. And this is chapter 6, and it is called A Queer Noise in the Night. Here is the picture. All right. At last it was dinner time, and the children sat down to see what Henry had in his bundles. I bought another loaf of bread at the store, said Henry, and some more meat. And I bought some dried meat because we can eat it with our hands. And I bought a bone for Watch. Watch looked hungrily at the bone and lay down at once to eat it. Jessie got out 4 cups and bowls and put some milk in each one. And then the children put in little pieces of brown bread and began to eat it with their new spoons. So they had milk, and then they put little pieces of bread in it, and then they ate it with spoons. Interesting. What fun, said Jessie, eating with spoons. Now tell us what you did in town, Henry. Henry began. The town below this hill is Silver City. I saw the name on a sign. I went into the town and walked along the first street I came to. It was a nice street with big houses and flowers and trees. And I saw a man out cutting his grass. He's a good man, too. I can tell you, a doctor. Did you work for him? Asked Jessie. Yes, said Henry. He was very hot, and just as I came to the house, his bell rang, and he started to the house, and I called after him. I asked him if I could cut the grass. And he said, Yes, yes, I wish you would. You see, he wasn't used to cutting the grass himself. So I cut the grass, and he said, Good for you. Do you want to work every day? And he said he had never had a boy who cut it as well as I did. Oh, Henry, said Violet and Jessie, and I told him I did want to work, and he told me to come back this afternoon. He has a pretty house and I forgot to, there's a picture on this one. There's just Henry cutting the grass. Sorry about that. Back to business. He told me to come back this afternoon. He has a pretty house and a garage and a big vegetable garden, and he has a lot of cherry trees behind the house. A cherry orchard. You should see the big, beautiful red cherries. And when I was cutting the grass near the kitchen, the cook came to the kitchen door and watched me. She is big and fat, Henry laughed. And she asked me if I liked cookies, and I said I did, and she gave me one. What did you do with it? Asked Benny hungrily. When she went back into the kitchen, I put it in my pocket, said Henry, laughing. Did she see you? Cried Jessie. Oh, no, said Henry. I played I was eating it. And for a long time, I carefully ate away on nothing at all. Benny began to look at Henry's pocket. It did look very funny. Henry went on. And when I came home, the doctor gave me $1, and the cook gave me this bag. And Henry laughed at Benny and pulled the bag out of his pocket. And in it were 10 delicious brown cookies. Oh, cried Benny. Please, Jessie, let's have cookies for dinner. Yes, indeed, said Jessie. Then Henry opened his last bundle. I thought we ought to have a tablecloth, he said. So I got one at the store, but it wasn't hemmed. Violet begged, Oh, let me hem it. And she took her scissors out of her work bag and cut the 2 ends even. And before she began to hem the pretty blue tablecloth, she helped Jessie wash and rinse the dishes and put them away. Benny helped too. And when Henry said goodbye and went back to town, all the children were working happily. Watch was trying to make a hole with one paw to bury his bone in. I'll help you bury your bone, Watch, said Benny. Oh, no, Benny, said Jessie. Watch wants to bury his bone alone. You can come and help me. I'm going to make a broom for the house. For a little while, Benny ran around finding sticks for the broom, but he soon went to sleep on the ground with the dog for a pillow. The 2 girls sat by the brook. Violet was hemming the blue tablecloth, and Jessie was making a broom with a long stick for a handle. When Henry came back at supper time, the broom with its long handle stood in the kitchen, and the new tablecloth was hemmed. Henry admired the broom and the tablecloth, and he gave Jessie a small bundle. Oh, butter, cried Jessie, her eyes shining. It was butter, yellow and sweet, and the 4 children had not had any butter for many days. At last they sat down to their fine supper. Now this spoon is a magic spoon, said Henry. Turn it around and use the handle, and it's a knife. and he showed Benny how to put butter on the brown bread with his magic knife. With dried meat and bread and butter, milk and cookies, the children could not ask for a better supper. "What did you do this afternoon, Henry?" asked Jessie. "Well, I washed the doctor's car," said Henry, "and I washed the walks and the windows, and tomorrow I'm going to work in the garden." Then he looked at the brook. "Oh, how I'd love to have a swim in that nice cold water." Henry was hot and sticky as he looked at the waterfall. "Maybe we could make a swimming pool. We could build a dam out of the logs." "Oh, yes, we could," said Jessie. "Violet and I know where to find some logs and some big flat stones." "You do?" said Henry. "Yes," said Jessie. "They are not far away. Just a little way below here is a pool now, with sand all around it. It is not big enough to swim in." "Is that so?" cried Henry. "Someday I'll stay at home and we'll try to dam up the brook and make a swimming pool." "You can have my wheels," said Benny. "Good," replied Henry. "I'll make you a little cart with the wheels, Benny, and you can carry stones in it." "Yes," said Benny, "I will." "Come now, we must go to bed," said Jessie. The children were all glad to go to bed. They stood up on the stump and climbed into their new house, and they all went to sleep. But Henry, he was thinking about the new swimming pool. And all at once he saw that Watch was not asleep. Henry patted the dog and said, "Lie down, Watch." But Watch did not lie down. He began to growl softly. "Shh," said Henry to the dog. He sat up. Jessie sat up. "What is it, Henry?" she whispered. "I don't know," replied Henry. He was frightened. "I think Watch hears something in the woods." "Let's close the door," said Jessie. "I'm afraid." The two children closed the heavy door softly. Then they sat still and listened, but they did not hear anything. "Lie down, Watch," said Jessie again. "Go to sleep." But Watch did not go to sleep. He growled again. "Maybe someone is in the woods. Maybe someone wants to hide in this car," whispered Jessie. "Maybe," said Henry, "but there is something out there that the dog doesn't like." Then they heard a stick crack, and Watch barked. There's Watch. "Oh, shh!" Jessie put her hand over his mouth. "If there's someone in the woods, he knows there's a dog in this boxcar," said Henry. And he took the new broom in his hand and he waited. But nothing came, nothing at all. And the two children waited and waited. Violet and Benny slept through it all. "I'm going to open the door now," said Henry. And they opened the door softly, and then they listened. The dog sniffed a little, and then he turned around 3 times, and he lay down. And he put his head on his paws. "It must be all right now," said Henry. "Watch knows. Maybe it was just a rabbit." So at last they all went to sleep and slept until morning. And that's the end of that chapter. I love you guys very much.